So moving on to piracy. Piracy is a crime with ancient origins. As long as there have been ships at sea, pirates have sought to steal from them. It distinguishes itself from many other international crimes in that by itself its definition occurs on the high seas outside the jurisdiction of any state. This includes the world oceans, regional seas, territorial waters, rivers and ports with the goal of stealing cargo and other valuable goods. So those who conduct acts of piracy are called pirates, while the ships are called as pirate ships. So now let's see the impact of piracy and the new trends and the reasons and the high-risk areas of piracy.
High-risk areas in piracy. We can identify 10 high-risk areas in the world. So first one is Malacca Straits, and second one is South China Sea. Next, Gulf of Aden, Gulf of Guinea, Benin, Nigeria, Somalia, Indonesia, Arabian Sea and Indian Ocean. Somalia. Maritime piracy in Somalia is cause of international concern as the people of the country have come to believe that piracy is the only option available to them to ward off poverty and other constraints plaguing them. And Indian Ocean. The waters of the Indian Ocean are also falling prey to the acts of sea pirates. These pirates hail from revenge nation of Somalia and have been causing problems to Indian as well as ships hauling from other countries. Nigeria. Nigeria in the western part of Africa is regarded to be hive of piracy activities. The threat of piracy is so high in the region that it has been related as being one of the most risky areas for marine cargo transportation.
I think there is a good understandability of countries which has high piracy risk, which explained by Janit. So I will explain about reason for the piracy. The poor country has a very low level of economy and they have same economic barriers because they have limited resources and larger population. So their limited resources can't fly their wants and needs. Some countries like this Ethiopia, Philippines, Somalia and Nigeria didn't self-sufficient because they face some weather condition and they unable to cultivate. Before I mentioned like that countries live in a poverty and low level of educational people, so they are in jobless and economy. They also try to do some piracy activities.
I am going to explain about piracy impact. Piracy is international crime. Piracy that directs the life and lives of self-force strongly impact maritime activity as well as economic development. The global damage caused by piracy is estimated the 6.6 euro to 6.9 billion the commercial fund. Loss of the cargo on delay event. Private can case political instability due to state official corruption.
I'm going to addressing about the new trends of the piracy. In today's world, piracy had been developed than the past. But unfortunately, due to the COVID-19 pandemic, entire world has faced lots of difficulties. On behalf of that, International Maritime Bureau has recorded in 2020 piracy incidents are become more increased than 2019. As an example, we all know Somalian waters are the most well-known location of modern piracy in 2009 to 2012. But, however, region has significantly managed to reduce the number of piracy in air and sea, as well as to increase the international cooperation between countries' navy. However, the main target of IMB is to bug down the trend.
Best management practices to deter piracy. When it comes to marine security, many sailors have encountered different security threats when operating ships in the marine. On that note, piracy-specific best management practices were introduced on the sole purpose to avoid and deter those threats. BMP5, which is the 5th edition of the best management practices, were jointly produced by shipping organizations with the support of military organizations. It helps ship operators, masters and mariners to prepare for external threats to safety. Although regional stability has cause for other maritime security threats like deliberate targeting of ships by extremist groups and damages arise from regional conflicts, best management practices aims to prevent a ship becoming a victim of piracy. So it comprehensively guides and it introduces measures for the protection of crew, vessels and cargo. These best management practices were produced mainly focusing the fundamental requirements such as understanding the threat for risk assessment and decision making, conduct risk assessments, implement shipping protection measures, report any incidents and suspicious activities and cooperate or collaborate to prevent piracy. In addition, best management practices states how to avoid being a victim of piracy and it suggests not to be alone, not to be detected, surprised, not to be vulnerable and not to be controlled in order to preventing and suppressing acts of piracy and armed robbery against ships.
Piracy has been a serious issue and it is not a new problem. And in international, this is a huge issue and prohibited. These pirates acts has threatened maritime security and this has both living and financial losses. There are two means of dealing with piracy and they are taking legal measures and another one is security measures. There are organization conventions which act on piracy and takes and implement necessary actions against it. So some of them are UNCOLS, SUA, IMO and IMB. So I will explain about UNCOLS. This conversation was brought in 1982 and this framework provides repression for piracy. In here there are acts against this as 100, 107 and 110 and etc. All these UNCOLS gives the definition, duty to cooperation, the repression of piracy, right of visit, detention or loss of nationality of pirates and some more. So in UNC define piracy and according to international law, piracy is an act of violence or detention or perpetrated on the high seas against a ship outside of a state judicial of 12 national miles of its coast. So Bhagya will explain other part of this topic.
IMO is a special agency of United Nations which has undertaken the responsibility to take measures to improve safety and security of international shipping. In recent years, IMO has focused on piracy and armed robbery in some specific areas such as wider Western Indian Ocean and as well as in the Gulf of Guinea of West Africa. With the support from regional areas, they have been able to mitigate piracy and armed robbery to some extent. And then the SUA Convention. SUA Convention provides the international framework which ensures that necessary action is taken against persons who committing unlawful acts against ships. This convention applies for all the ships navigating in the high seas. And then the IMBO, International Maritime Bureau, is a specialized department of the International Chamber of Commerce. This is a non-profit organization which was established in 1981 to act as a focal point in the fight against all types of maritime crimes and malpractice. And then my colleague Anup will continue the rest of the
Ship protection measurement. What is ship protection measurement? This selected highlight proven ship protection measurement provide layered protection. This BPM is based on regional experience and attacks and will economic to involve as method chain. Implementation of ship protection measurement will be identified during the voyage. The planning process. Companies very which to consider making further allocation to the ship beyond the scope of the BPM and providing additional equipment and personnel as a means of further risk of attack. So these are the reasons of commercial ships are using ship protection measurement. The first one is the safety of crew. The second one is the safety of cargo. The third one is safety of vessel. The sum of passenger ships also using some ship protection measurements for their passengers' safety.
According to this diagram, ship can be divided into three parts. Mainly, primary layer of defense, second layer of defense, last layer of defense. What are the ship protection measurements that commercial ships are using? Physical barriers, razor wire. It creates an effective barrier if properly rigged and secured. The quality of razor wire varies considerably, and lower quality razor wire is less effective. Water spray and foam monitors. Enhanced bridge protection. Control of access to accommodation and machinery spaces. Safe muster point and other measures. Closed circuit television. Lighting. Deny the use of ships, tools and equipment. Protection of equipment stored on the upper deck.
Maritime piracy has evolved over centuries and still remains a challenge to international law. So through this presentation we have discussed about maritime law, threat and impact of piracy at sea, reason for piracy, its impact also has been discussed. With them, best management practices on the prevention of piracy and organization convention to reduce piracy also have been discussed. So everyone should use best management practices in order to reduce the piracy. It is not possible to end piracy, but by using these best management practices we can reduce the impact of piracy. Thank you very much.